Molweni, goeiemorgen. I hope that all of you are good. Chairperson, I'm good to see the old faces here that I know quite well. And it would be very good to see you this afternoon and have an engagement. When I came in and I was told that I have got to say a few words, I thought, what would I say to the farmers? Because I know the first question that they are going to ask of me is, what's happening with China? And I know that you are waiting for that. But I thought it's very important to start and say we live in an environment where this sector has been on an upward trajectory. We experienced in 2020 that the sector grew by 13.4%, and last year it grew by 8.3% year on year. And it shows that we are in a sector that is on a path of growth. And any other disturbance that you experience, like your FMD and the current impact that it is having on trade, will always be a drawback in our sector. And I think that it's very important that we reflect on it. We also need to reflect on the socio-political issues that are currently happening. That the Russia-Ukraine war has had an impact in terms of our sector, where there is a huge impact on this conflict that has raised major concerns in terms of exports, in terms of imports, but more importantly for this sector in terms of crude oil and other inputs that we require for our inputs. When Professor was giving the indication, she was talking about feed and how it impacts in terms of your pocket. Now, if you have got to just look at those, how much it costs for you now to buy feed, there's a huge impact that we have got to look at. We also have got an issue around climate change, I think, where in some areas there's still drought that is being experienced. In other areas we have had very good rains. I was in the Karoo, I think, a few months back. I started seeing what I've never seen in a long time, some of the green shoots coming out. But we need to ensure that as we grow the sector, we also future-proof the sector, because if we don't address the issues of climate change in terms of adaptation and mitigation against all the risks that we are facing, we most likely as a sector to experience hardship. So as we future-proof, I think we need to make sure that there is adequate measures that we build into our sustainability as we build forward better. Now, there was an issue around predation management, which is a program that, by the way, the department ran with the industry some years back. And I am tempted, seeing AgriSeta is also taking a lead, that through our own infrastructure program, we need to see how do we build it into the other areas that we have. And I think it's very important that as we build predation management, it should not be a bid-all, but it should be also part and parcel of how we say, if the government has got a farm, what would we say is a farmable farm, especially for those small stock holders that we have in our country. So we will build it up into our systems so that we can also assist this industry. Now, there's an issue around the sheep shearers, and I think for my own sins, I've been dealing with this as long as I care to remember. Mr. Prinsloo was still the chair. He came to my office and he sat with me and we had that problem. And the first thing that he said to me is, come, on smooth a solution no grey. And I kept saying to him, this is a long issue. It needs us to have a sustainable solution, because what we always put in terms of your home affairs is that you need to put a sustainable solution. Now, all of those solutions that we have put in place seem not to be working. And I think why it's not working is that we don't also appreciate the concept of regionalization, where the skills would move freely in terms of a region. And I think that's where we need to also change the way that we phrase it, because it's quite clear, based on the number of years that we have been on this issue, that we might just need to say, why don't we utilize the concept of regionalization in terms of skills movement? Because we have got that concept, even within the African Union, that concept is there. So in terms of skills development, I think we stand a far much better chance. And the department, through our office, is ready to engage on this issue with Home Affairs. And we call on the leadership from your side that we organize similar to the ones that we had with William Henry Prinsloo when we dealt with this, so that we engage with them one-on-one, and the industry is also there to engage. There's an issue around the genetic improvement, and we used to call it the RAM project, and we met Rand for Rand. It shows how long I've known Leon. At the time when we met, we all both had full set of hair on our head. We have gone bald during that time. And during that time, I think we have left some of the things in terms of our artillery, where we have got to go back to this program that helped quite a lot of people. I've seen the figures. In Afrikaans, they say cijfers do not lie. So figures do not lie. It's a very good program. It has led to quite a lot of improvements in terms of the homesteads. I've seen that only 30% would still go and borrow for school funds to let students to go to school. That's a very important issue. It's a socio-economic issue that needs to be looked at. So the genetic program is something that we are looking at. We haven't forgotten also in terms of the engagements that you have said. Let's see how IFAD can assist. We're exploring the issues around IFAD and how that money would not burden the industry. And that's our responsibility as government, that we cannot just go and say, yes, this is the way to go, when we know how the international environment functions and how money functions. So we are looking at that, and as soon as we are done, we will also give you a letter that supports that. Our program called Economic Development, Trade and Marketing are looking at that matter as you have put on the table. And I should make that admission that it was put on the table. And now, the issue around vaccine availability, I would need to indicate to you that the minister herself has stood in the gap in terms of the vaccine availability by having engagements with the owners of the board biological products, indicating to them the importance of maintaining sound health in our country, whether it's large livestock or small stock. That there is that importance that we need to do. The minister has further even invited industry to come through to say that if there are interventions that would come from the industry, let the industry come through for that. And there is a team that is led by myself looking at these issues. The minister has also said to the registrar of Act 36 of 1947, I'll not say the long name. If I say it, some of you will fall asleep before I finish that name. But she has said to him, let's ensure that your work is to concentrate on ensuring that there's head health. If it so happens that within the OBP sphere, they cannot be satisfying the industry, if there is a need for us to import, to manufacture elsewhere, let's do it, because the important thing in terms of the department is to ensure that the head of this country is healthy and sound. I will go now to FMD, which is a topical issue. I think we started in 2019 experiencing incursions. Dr. Mudison will kill me because now I'm speaking a language of plant health, but that's how I would like to say it, where we have got outbreaks in the Vembe area in 2019. That led to South Africa losing its FMD status in terms of the World Organization on Health, on Animal Health. Now, that was an important issue. As soon as that happened in 2019, then we had COVID-19. And according to my own analysis, in terms of dealing with it, there was also a lot of non-abidance with the rules. I usually say this, that it takes two to tango. government can do this much, but if you have got rogue elements that themselves do it their purpose, that they are going to go out and transport cattle all over in terms of auctions, in terms of trying to get a new gene pool to their area, we are going to have problems like that. And I would like to implore all of us that let us stick to the rules, let us abide by the rules. But during that time, some of the indications that we have realized was that there was non-abidance to this. So we have identified a few areas, and I thought that I should say them, that the areas that we have identified in our engagements with Limpopo specifically, in our engagements with KZN, and the minister was in Limpopo also, was that we have started having inadequate facilities in terms of handling facilities at communal level. There is a declining number of public vets that we are having. The number is 255 or in and around that area. The issue around public laboratories where you can engage with government at that level is also inadequate. There's also a funding issue. And I should say this with trepidation because in actual fact, National Treasury has kept on giving money to the side of biosecurity. But what has not happened, it's not adequate enough in terms of dealing with the issues that we have. Now, there's also a concentration in terms of the command system that we use, a command system that we use in animal health, where we recognize the Constitution makes agriculture a concurrent function, where you can function at national level and also at the provincial level. Now, veterinary services is worse. A national level is responsible for policy and the provinces are responsible for implementation. So there's that weak system that we have identified to cause quite a few issues that we are currently dealing with. And the last one is the disregard for the law by some people who are in farming. We have got to say it, and we have got to deal with those. Now, it's important that I have got to indicate that Minister was in cabinet and she had to present a plan of how are we going to deal with this. I'm not going to bore you with the details in terms of the plan, but it's a very comprehensive way of how are we going to deal, not only with FMD, but with veterinary services in our country so that we can be able to deal conclusively and comprehensively with the issues. You are also aware that the minister had set up a task team, a biosecurity task team, led by Dr. Moepudi, having Dr. Gideon Bruckner, Dr. Khabi Mokhajane, and Professor Kirsten, who was here yesterday. I hope that he's still here, to deal with the issues around biosecurity in our country. We are expecting that the report would be released soon, and that report would be implemented in its own totality, because there are things that we have got to deal with as a country. Going to our favorite topic of China. I don't know where to start, but I would like to give an indication to our farmers that we know there is understood impatience with the system. But if you look at the WTO principles, one of those principles is the principle of sovereignty. And that principle says that each and every country can have its own legal parameters to protect itself from the risks that it anticipates in and around the world, so to say. I'm paraphrasing to make it very easy and simple to understand. Now, China has deemed it fit that they are going to stop our products because they think that the products are not safe. Now, what needs to happen is that there needs to be an engagement with us, because if China says that there's an element called the appropriate level of protection. Now, the appropriate level of protection is set by the importing country, in this case, China. And China is saying that based on our appropriate level of protection, we are not sure that the wool or even the greased wool that we export from South Africa would be safe. Now, our argument is the argument that the industry is having, to say that way back we had a system set up this system is enough to deal with the issues that have been identified. Secondly, with the current FMD that we are experiencing, we have never had FMD in the major wool growing areas of our country. And therefore, we don't think that what you are having as a reason is enough. Thirdly, we have never had incidences that have been reported in small stock in our country. So those are the building blocks that we are doing with China. And we are confident that we will be able to do it. While receiving their responses and having still issues around our grey stool, what we are going to do, and I had a discussion this morning with the minister on the very same, is to take it to a level where we also communicate politically, to indicate to the minister in China who's responsible for GAC, which is a unit that is responsible for this, to indicate these reasons that I have just indicated to the industry, that this is our firm belief as South Africa. If it so means that Dr. Mdisani has got to be on that plane to China when they are open, we will do it, because we strongly believe in the issues that we are raising with the Chinese on this matter. So just bear with us. We are confident that we will be able to convince and prevail on the very same issue. I hope that it is understood. We are working fervently to ensure that we are back on trade, because without that trade, we won't be able to reach those levels of our economic growth, and we won't be able to brag about agriculture being the backbone of our country. Thank you very much.